So just to set it up, this section takes place, I looked for the worst thing that my character does. Her name is Allison. And certainly by traditional standards, this is pretty much the worst thing she does, which leads to a lot of other worse things. So this takes place in 1989, and it's shortly after the Loma Prieta earthquake in the Bay Area. And at this time, my two characters, Allison and Zoe, I still can't believe I can say my two characters. I made these people up. Okay, sorry. 10 nonfiction books. I'm not used to this at all. So Allison, my main character, has been discontent for some time with Zoe, largely because she wants to have a child, and it's the 80s, and she feels like, for some good reasons, that she can't have a normal life with a woman and be a mother. So she's feeling like she has to make this really tough choice. And she's a freelance writer, and she's been hustling, trying to get assignments, and she's just got an assignment with Mother Jones, which is like her biggest thrill ever in her life. And she's been invited to a Mother Jones party, which she has lied to Zoe about and said that it was an invite for one, because she doesn't want to be outed by Zoe at the party. Also, they have just inseminated for the first time, the two women. Allison has been inseminated because she's ambivalently sort of plodding toward this future as a lesbian mother. And Zoe has been quite undone by the earthquake, even more so than Allison. She basically is having sort of a protracted breakdown. And so Allison is going off to this Mother Jones party, Zoe having spent the last few days on the couch curled up in a ball. And here's Allison arriving in San Francisco for the Mother Jones party. Market Street reverberated with the booming sounds of demolition. Construction crews were everywhere. Cranes dangled over the ferry building. Wrecking balls tore holes in the Embarcadero freeway. Excavators swallowed the debris in huge bites. Men in orange jumpsuits, construction helmets, and yellow earmuffs jackhammered the fractured sidewalks. The jaws of garbage trucks chomped chunks of cement. A young man approached Allison as she waited for the light to change. Weed, crack, H, he muttered. Spare change, begged a woman who stank of urine. Some things haven't changed, she thought, stepping over two people sleeping in the doorway of a nondescript 5-story office building that matched the address on the invitation in her hand. She checked her reflection in the murky brass elevator doors, adjusted the shoulder pads of her brown linen blazer. She opened the top 2 buttons of her jumpsuit, the ones Zoe had buttoned up. She unbuttoned a third. The elevator deposited Allison into a crowded office suite roaring with conversation. A young woman in a red and black Mother Jones t-shirt offered her a plastic tumbler of wine. Allison hadn't had a sip of alcohol since her first insemination. She took a cup off the tray. Taking a long swallow, she looked around the room. She saw the shockingly handsome Mother Jones editor-in-chief, rumored to be a ladies' man, talking to his brother, a well-known filmmaker whose work appeared on PBS. In the middle of the animated crowd, she saw Mother Jones' founding editor, who kept the magazine afloat with the fortune he'd inherited. Was that dapper man in the white hat, white suit, and white shoes really the famous author she thought he was? I don't belong here, Allison thought. Even the nobodies looked like somebodies. These people were the chosen few, San Francisco's literati, real writers, filmmakers, and editors, not imposters like her. The wine-serving woman offered Allison another glass. She drank it quickly and noticed that a man was watching her from across the room. A handsome man, a tall, blonde, sexy, Jewish-looking man with a strong jaw, an angular face, and a hooked nose. His lips were full and shiny, as if he'd been kissing someone all night. His mouth curved into a smile. He walked toward her with an urgent tilt to his body. His eyes were almost as blue as Zoe's. Mark Miller, he extended his hand. You're Mark, I'm Allison Rose. I was hoping that was you. Mark let go of her hand, reluctantly it seemed. They faced each other in awkward silence. It's weird working with writers over the phone, Mark said finally. I've done a dozen stories with one freelancer who lives in Seattle. We talk every week, but I've never seen his face. He ran a hand through his tangle of blonde curls. I'm glad to have the pleasure of seeing yours. I'm hoping you also had the pleasure of reading my first draft, she said. Ouch, Mark grinned at her. I know I'm late with your revisions. So we're talking about fixing the piece, not killing it? Allison laughed nervously. If I sound totally insecure, it's only because I am. No reason to be. Your draft is very good. Really? Allison's body slumped with relief. Or was that the wine? Or was it a different feeling entirely? We're always swamped around here, but with the office moving this week and all, Mark shrugged. A man with a shaved head, trim mustache, and Mother Jones t-shirt squeezed past them. Hey, Leo, Mark said, meet Allison, my newest writer. Allison, Leo's a senior editor here. You wrote the piece on the Menendez brothers, Leo said. I read your draft. Very powerful. That's great to hear. Allison was starting to feel a bit less like a loser. Your writer's glass is empty. Why don't you buy her a drink, Leo said to Mark. Nice to meet you, he said, and went off to talk to someone else. Mark cupped Allison's elbow in his hand and walked her to the makeshift bar across the room. Allison meant to say that she had enough, but then she was nodding and taking a gulp of the wine Mark handed her. He stood close to her, his shoulder touching hers. She felt dizzy and exhausted. She needed to lie down. She felt a wave of nausea. Oh God, she thought, what if I am pregnant? She leaned past Mark and put her wine glass down on the bar. Mark put his hand on her arm. His touch burned her skin. You okay, he asked. I'm getting over the flu, she lied. I'm a little out of it. Want to take a walk around the block? Get some air? It's a nice night for once. Allison nodded woozily. Mark put his wine down. She noticed he wasn't wearing a wedding ring. They walked out of the office without saying goodbye to anyone. They rode the elevator to the lobby in tense, charged silence. And then they were walking through the Mission in the warm darkness, and they were talking about the magazine business and whether the Menendez brothers would get life or be executed for killing their parents, and whether it was better to live in the East Bay or in San Francisco where Mark lived, and why Mother Jones had moved, and how the Mission District was changing, and where all the Latinos were going when their landlords raised their rent and yuppies moved in. Their conversation was a little vacation for Allison. They never even mentioned the earthquake. I could use an adult beverage, Mark said as they climbed Noe Street, bent against the steep hill. I live 2 blocks from here, and I pour a mean Chardonnay. Allison reached for the thought of Zoe, almost grasped it. Did it slip beyond her reach, or did she push it away? Sounds good, Allison said. What are you doing, she asked herself. Mark put his arm around her. Allison didn't say, I'm a lesbian. She didn't say, I have a girlfriend. She didn't say, my girlfriend thinks I'm pregnant and she might be right. She said, I can't spend the night.